and accessible to every single citizen. We are more than fortunate to have the noble leadership of His Majesty the King Jigme Khesar Namgyal Wangchuck, the reigning monarch, who is no less than his father, the great father of well-being for the destitute and less privileged, inspiration for the youth and entire citizenry. His Majesty is a leader devoted to the selfless service and care for his people. As his Majesty stirs the nation in the high spirit of gross national happiness, I could only wish for his longevity and good health. I will only this kind of leadership characteristic characterized by selflessness and compassion syncs with the well-regarded Indian philosophy of Vasudeva Kutumbakam. The world is one family. Conscience, confidence, comfort, and respect in the life of the public comes by naturally when they have the most genuine leader in the forefront. Thereby, an everlasting bond of trust is developed between the leader and his subordinate, which is a very important concept in the psyche of we Buddhist people. It is called Hadamsi. Recognizing happiness and well-being as universal goal and aspiration in the life of human beings around the world, the United Nations has proclaimed the 20 March as the World Happiness Day, and the theme for this year's World Happiness Day will be keep calm, stay wise, and be kind. I will conclude by saying that all leaders, thinkers, and academics and educationists gathered at this event by leveraging on your respective reach and influence in the society can give some deep thought and attention to the philosophy of gross national happiness. Our world will most definitely become a much better place. With gratitude to the organizers for having me here, I once again congratulate you for doing this great event. I wish everyone a blissful day, a blissful year, and a blissful life. Thank you and Tashi Tele.
Thank you, sir. You have been a source of time very nicely elaborated the importance of happiness and how the people in return take their government and being happy. This is one of the that we need to learn from one of the neighboring country. And the best part is that if you look at all the district of BTR is directly connected to Bhutan. So thank you very much for your speech. And now I request our executive member, Sirajit Osmatari, to share his experience. I'd also request him to kindly share if any of one or two personal stories that he wants to share from a time few years back and now. So towards the road towards peace building, I request him if he share one or two interesting stories of his personal thing to us to be of good for all our audiences, students, and everyone. So.
Kolombai, good afternoon to you all. Respected chairpersons of the sessions of the Bodoland International Knowledge Festival, Mr. Ranjan Kumar Borowa, respected inaugurator of the program, Honorable Mr. Jigme King Namgyal. I cannot pronounce it. Please. Respected invited speaker, Mr. Nigel Haywood from Australia, Mr. Detlafa Mpalele from Republic of South Africa, distinguished guests, invited participants, and all those who are present here. And also, my most respected Uncle Niketu, he is like my new model teacher of peace building in my life. Also, Brother Saleh and Sister Peno of IOC, Initiative of Science. Especially as per this is informed by the precedence of the session. Actually, I don't want to say anything about my historical life, personal historical life. Just the people of this area, especially people of Assam, everybody knows that as I was also a member of the National Democratic Front of Bodoland. This is underground organizations of Bodoland, which have been fighting for the political rights since 35 years, and also fighting against the, what to say, this one, uh, self determination, and also about the extinct of Boro culture, tradition, political right, economic right. Therefore, I don't want to say anything about that. Just I want to thank uh, the inaugurator, the Consul of Bhutan. Just he mentioned about the relationship between the Boro and the Bhutia, which was since the prehistorical period, and by the 35 years Boroland movement, our relationship between the Boros and Bhutanese, or the brothers and sisters of Bhutans, were cut off. But we are trying to rebuild the relationship, brotherhood relationship with the people of Bhutan. Anyway, today in the sessions of the Bodoland Territorial Knowledge Festival, I feel honored and privileged to be sitting in the front row along with the esteemed international resource persons and speakers on peace building, Mr. Haywood from Australia and Mr. Ledlapa from uh, Republic of South Africa, Mr. Jingme Tinde from Bhutan, distinguished guests and other esteemed participants. I feel more honored in getting this opportunity to speak on peace building in the sessions of the Bodoland International Knowledge Festival, but I doubt how well I shall be able to share my ideas on this particular topic. To begin with, let me quote the Bible, the holy book of the Christians, that go in peace, your journey has the Lord's approval. Go in peace, your journey has the Lord's approval. Just chapter 18, verse 6. I have great faith in the Bodos in which in each and every one Bodoland who are trying to build peace. The Bodos are peace loving, shy, gentle, and of simple nature. From time immemorial or from thousands of years, Ego the Bodos build peaceful environment and live peacefully. In the epical period or the prehistorical period, in the great epics like the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, we find that many of the kings and the emperors like Narakasura, Banasura, Bhagaratta, Ghatakasura strive, strive for peace. In short, may it be history period, ancient history period, or the medieval historical period, we find that Bodos love and live peacefully. The Bodos are mentioned as great, hospitable, and gentle and simple natural people in the epics, the Puranas, the Vedas, and the Upanishads, and in the writings or notes left by the foreigners, travelers, or visitors. With the Bodos, who are described as gentle, peace-loving, and hospitable people, have but from the 8 decades of the 20th century been struggling for the survival of the ethnic nationalism, and for this great cause we were forced to launch political revolution. But maybe in trying to get this ethnic identity through political revolution, we had to lose more than getting. Though we became conscious of the political rights, we became crippled in the economic, social, national tradition. We lag for behind the others even in education. Though the first Bodo Accord and Bodo Accord signed on 20 February 1993 and the second Bodo Accord of 10 February 2003 brought some changes in the political scenario of the borders. There was deterioration in the social and moral aspects of the peace-loving and hospitable Bodos. With a view to build prosperous Bodoland and peaceful Bodoland, where all the people of different tribes and sub-tribes would get equal opportunity and equal importance by implementing the clauses and the provisions of those two Bodo Accords not only did the Bodo people but also the government failed, for which the new generation lost hope in these two Bodo Accords and the political movement continued. Though it may always not be possible to bring peace in the society by the political unity, but in the last two Bodo Accords, provision for peace building were not clearly mentioned. Striving for peace and trying to take concrete steps for peace building could also be not realized. The third Bodo Accord signed on 27 January 2020 between the central government and the four factions of the National Democratic Front of Bodoland, United Bodo People's Organization, and All Bodo Students Union has been known as Bodo Peace Accord. This has become a historic Bodo Accord for peace building. The United People's Party Liberal, UPPL, is a political party, but since the formations of the council headed by Honorable Chief Mr. Pramod Bora, have been trying sincerely to analyze all the working systems of the government along with the implementation of each and every clause of the third Bodo Accord, which has been known as Bodo Peace Accord. Peace Bodoland, Green Bodoland. This is the prime motto of the Bodoland or BTR government. In the last 35 years or more, armed struggles and the democratic movement which went side by side, the Bodos had to lose many a life and the properties along with the downfall of the development activities like education and immunity. Therefore, just as in the pre-historical period or the historical period, the Bodos ruled peacefully and flourished, so too in the 21st century, the Bodos led by the Honorable Chief of Mr. Srijut Pramod Bora, with a dream of building a great Bodo nation and with the mottos of peace building, this knowledge festival has been organized. But peace building is not possible by the government alone. Each one of us should participate in it. Every individual should have calmness of mind to moderate anger and extreme emotion. We should simplify our life. This will bring peace of mind. And if every individual has peace of mind, the society will be peaceful. We should educate ourselves and teach others about the evils of injustice, inequality, and divisive forces. We can participate in peace building by encouraging the people who work for peace. We should create avenues for constructive dialogue and try to reduce community spaces. Education will flourish if peace is established. If we acquire quality education, we will be able to succeed in agricultural field as well as in business activities. Only good and quality education will help to think what is good and what is bad in politics and will be able to create healthy society. So through the knowledge of the resources, persons of the world, let the Bodos and other people of BTR be able to create peaceful and developed society. This is the expectations of our BTR government. At the same time, my wish is that let there be peace Bodoland and green Bodoland. At the end, before concluding my speech, I once more extend my greetings and respect to the esteemed speakers, participants, and to my dear student friend. Thank you, Kolumbai.
Thank you, Rajit Prasad Basmotri. He is, is a executive member, and he has said that he was a part of one of the group which has signed War of Peace Accord recently in, a few years back. So, thank you, sir, for giving insights, and our guests who are here, no doubt most of them they are aware of that there was peace accord. The first one was in 1993, then there was one in 2003, then the recent one, of course, on 27 January 2020. So the region which, whenever people hear about Kokrajhar or Borland, few years back it was like more negative things coming to mind. But now things are changing, and as we see, this Borland International Knowledge Festival, which our present leadership bringing and changing the perspective. So this will definitely help us building peace in true sense. So moving ahead, now I request our friends from Australia, Mr. Nigel Hayward, to speak few words and also share his experience.
Kulumbai. Good afternoon, everybody. It's fantastic to be here, and I apologize for my Australian accent. It's a little bit difficult to understand. Thank you very much. So I have to admit, I'm not really an expert when it comes to peace building, but I've always been passionate about peace building. And I was very fortunate to be able to work with groups that have been in conflict in Sri Lanka and in the Solomon Islands and in South Sudan in Africa. And what struck me in each of those situations is the people who are in the conflict also have the answers to the conflict. And so what I learned from working with people in conflict is two ideas which I found very helpful also in my own life. One of them is reflecting on what's happening inside of yourself, something that we call inner listening. How do you stop and look at what's the conflict inside of you that's being impacted by the conflict outside of you? And the second idea which I found really helpful was the idea that you can take responsibility for your part of the conflict. So I first came to India back in 2001, more than 20 years ago, and I was 24. And before I left Australia, we had a party for a farewell. And during that party, I was drinking and I got quite drunk. And the next day, I woke up with a terrible headache. And a friend came to me and he challenged me. He said, I think you have a drinking problem. And I was quite angry with him because I was embarrassed that he was calling me out. And I was also angry because I said, it's none of your business what I do in my personal life. So I expected him to say, no, you have a problem. But instead, he did something quite different. He said, why don't you take some time and just sit in silence and ask yourself, what do you think about your drinking? So I took his advice. So I took some time in silence and I listened, and I knew I had a drinking problem. It's just that I couldn't admit it to anybody else. And also I'd been drinking for 5 or 6 years and had moved away from the previous city I lived in because I couldn't stop drinking with all the people that I was around. So I felt deeply ashamed about this struggle that I had in myself. But in this inner listening, a new thought came, which was not from me. And that was, I need to get help. So that challenged me to start asking other people, can you help me with my drinking problem? So I went to get some more professional help. So when I came to India, I joined a program with Initiatives of Change. It was a leadership training program, and I had to sign a contract saying that I wouldn't drink. So I didn't drink for 10 months. But over the next 3 years, I continued to struggle. And it took me 3 years of finally totally giving up alcohol and getting free from that struggle. So I share this personal story because I think that small decision to look at my own life and to be honest about the challenges was the thing that led me into peace building. This idea that change starts with me. So I didn't think that everyone has to give up drinking, but that was the thing that I had to give up in order to get clear in myself. So if you jump forward about 6 years, I was invited to go to Solomon Islands to work with two communities that had been in conflict with each other. And the friend that I was traveling with, I asked him, why would anyone in the Solomon Islands listen to me from Australia who's never had any experience of their conflict? And he said, that's a good question. Let's see when we get there. So I was very nervous about going into this situation. And I didn't feel like I had any expert skills to pass on to them. But during this time together, we did this inner listening, where all of these militia leaders who had been fighting against each other, they shared their stories with each other, and then they took time in silence to reflect on how they'd been impacted by the violence. And slowly, one by one, they started telling their stories and asking each other for forgiveness. And it was a very powerful experience to be a part of those sessions. So out of that, one of those militia leaders began to think about what he had done during the war. And he'd taken his militia around different villages, and he'd killed people and he'd tortured people. And he began to feel very heavy about what he'd done and what his soldiers had done. But he said, I was waiting for the government to come and do something. I felt that the government should lead the reconciliation process. But the government continued not to do anything. And so he kept having this thought, I'm the one who should start. I should go and ask for forgiveness. And so he took this idea to his wife, and he said, I'm wondering whether I should go back to all the villages where I killed people and where I ordered my troops to do things, where I tortured old men. I'm wondering whether I should go back to those villages and say sorry. But in their culture, if you say sorry, you have to bring an animal to ask for forgiveness. But he could never give that many animals. So it meant that he could be asked to give to kind of bankrupt his family. So he was struggling with this. So he prayed about it. He took time in silence. And this voice kept coming, whether it's his conscience or God or inner wisdom. And it said, you need to start. So he took his wife and his children, and he went back to these villages, and he would call a big meeting like we have here today, and he would read out all the things he did wrong in that village. And then he would ask for forgiveness. And he showed me some footage of all the mothers in the village walking past and weeping, crying tears, and hugging him and forgiving him. And nobody asked for any payment. And so through his actions, there started to be this healing amongst the villagers. So I just share these two stories because my story of dealing with my own struggle, even though I didn't realize that it was related to peace building, it helped me get clear about how inner listening and putting things right works. And then sharing that with people in the village and watching these militia leaders take full responsibility for what they've done, I realized that each of us has a part in being honest. Each of us can start where we are in our own community and in our own family by just putting right the things that we've done wrong or the things we struggle with. We don't know how the other person will respond, but in my experience, this is really foundational work for peace building. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Nigel. We'd like to request Sri Pramod Boroji to come to the dais. We are very much fortunate that our Chief Executive Member is here. So I request our Chief Executive Member of BTR, Sri Pramod Boroji, to come to the dais. Please, sir. Because this is not as a CM, but as a leader of peace building in the region. I'm calling you as a leader of peace building in the region, not as a CM. Please come.
And I call you as a peace harbinger, sir. So please come.
So please give a big clap for one of the leading youngest peace builder in the region. Not as a CM, but as a peace builder. So, I request Gayatri Dekadulai ma'am to kindly felicitate our one of the most successful peace builder in the region, Sri Pramod Boroji. We also have one of the executive member, Sri Wilson Hasda. So I request our organizers to kindly felicitate him. So moving ahead, we have I request our friend from South Africa, Mr. Late Papa, to kindly share his experience. Sir. Mumbai. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm not going to be long. I'm going to be brief as possible. I should have greeted our friend. I'm sorry to forget so important a name. Yes. I salute you, and through you, I'm saluting every dignitary present here today. As I've indicated, I'm not going to be long. I'm going to tell you about my journey. My journey from Guwahati. I hope I'm pronouncing it well. To here in Borderland or Borderland. I was very tired, but
counted the number of bridges that I was crossing or driving over. I counted 4 and I fell asleep. But I guess that the bridges from here to Guwahati Airport are more than 4. Now, the theme of today is peace building. And I'm convinced that peace building without bridge building is not possible. And even our movement as human beings across the length and breadth of India, across the length and breadth of Boroland or of Assam state, just can't be smooth without bridges. Actually, if we had no bridges, only swimmers would move up and down. Those like me who cannot swim would be stranded the other side of the flood. So what lesson have I learned in bridges as well as in peace building is that someone must be courageous enough and say, we've been spilling each other's blood. We've been causing each other's tears. We've been shedding sweat. Now is time to build bridges. Those bridges may not be visible, like the ones I counted from airport to here, but those bridges are even more important than the ones that we can see. We need to build bridges across race groupings, across castes, across classes, across ethnic rivers, so that the society we all aspire to live in gives people opportunity to live side by side with their sisters and brothers. As human beings, we belong to one family. Actually, we belong to one race, the human race. Without plurality, it's just human family. And all things that make us to spill each other's blood are so artificial. What is cast, after all, is something in our heads. It is never scientifically proven or scientifically tested. So, in a nutshell, that was the journey from airport to here. But another journey, that was the journey of my life, just like you, my brother, who was involved in armed struggle, I was also involved in armed struggle. Just like you, today, I'm not involved in armed struggle. Or I should have made the assumption just like you. What about you? I'm no longer involved in armed struggle. I hope it's the same with you, my brother. And for me, armed struggle should be like death. You die once, and even in armed struggle, you should participate once. And when we emerge, we must be wiser to say never again. There are other ways of changing society besides killing your brother or your sister. With these few words, I thank you. Lumba.
thank you very much. He has shared his experience from being in armed struggle and now a peacemaker and working towards peace. So moving ahead, I request Mr. Sani Dangkupar Molong, our friend from Meghalaya, and who has also worked for peace in the region and in the country. I request him to kindly share his experience.
Thank you everyone for joining today and also for being here with us in this discussion on peace building. After the tall man led Lapa, I feel very short. My name is Sunny Parmauyong from Meghalaya. Although I'm from Meghalaya, I feel much at home in Bodoland. I've been coming here since 2016, and whenever I talk with my friends from Initiatives of Change, we will tell stories of sitting in Chai Tapri in Chirang area. We will sit after our trainings with APSU and also after our trainings with the organization called AND. We will sit in Chai Tapris, drinking tea, getting to know the people, and we will be very amused because the tea was very cheap. It was only 5 rupees. And so we were like so shocked at how things were very affordable and cheap in Bodoland. And those were some of the memories me and my friends who are not here today still carry of the region here. And since 2016 till now, I have been blessed because I've had the opportunity to get to know people from different communities and backgrounds. I listened to their stories, I understood the history of this place, and I also got to know some of the challenges of the region. And that gave me the knowledge of Bodoland, of the people and of the region. And in those days, the questions and the conversations we will be reflecting with then APSU president and the current CEM, Mr. Pramod Boro, were how to bring peace and harmony in Bodoland. And in the last year, I've traveled to this region on a regular basis to discuss, brainstorm and plan, with the team here. And the questions we are reflecting now, or we're trying to brainstorm now, is how do we sustain the peace? And so there's been this transition from a space where there's longing for peace and harmony to a place where we are trying to see how do we sustain the peace. And many societies in the world do not have this comfort, or leisure to think about sustaining peace, let alone dream about peace, because of the violence and bloodshed that they are still experiencing. So I think this is an opportunity for us here in Bodoland, to really think of ways of how to sustain the peace. And what I've seen over my years of working in the Northeast and in different parts of India and in our neighboring countries is that the challenges that our society, our region, and our world faces today illuminates the changes we need to make in ourselves.